All right, everybody. My name is Justin Greer, and I am the lead developer and owner of Dash 10 Digital. We are the creators of OAuth 2.0 server for WordPress, and today we're going to be going over how to connect a main WordPress site to another WordPress site and connecting those users using single sign-on. Now, this video assumes that you know a little bit about OAuth and how the flow of OAuth works, just so your expectations on what is happening is realistic. However, if you don't understand or you have a custom solution that just doesn't seem to fit into on how to set up single sign-on, and then you're more than welcome to reach out to us at dash10.digital. You can also send me an email at justin@dash10.digital, or you can send an email to support@wp-oauth.com. All right, so let's get started. First off, we're going to lay out the format of what is going on here. So we have a main WordPress site, and then we have a client WordPress site. In our case, our main WordPress site has our users, and let's just say that we have, we're going to be launching like another mini site for, let's just say, another product we have. And we want our users that we already have existing in our main site to be able to authenticate with our little satellite site or client site, so to speak. So instead of syncing users and trying to have like double accounts, one of the greatest things invented on the internet was called OAuth. And OAuth is just a protocol for how user information is synced and how users authenticate or authorize their user information to be used somewhere else on the web. Most people know of OAuth with Facebook and Google. Like when you click on Facebook sign in, or sign in with Facebook, or sign in with Google, that is the same concept. However, they're using a big system, and WP-OAuth server just kind of looks at the picture for you to be that, for you to provide that single sign-on using your main site. So with that, let's just hop right in here. We are looking at the OAuth 2 server authentication banner. It's also known as OAuth 2 provider, and it's also known as WP-OAuth server. We have grown over the years exponentially. So just know that if you see those names referenced, that is why we have been growing. We have been morphing into a big enterprise type software, and but this all works on every level, and we tried to make it as simple as possible. So we have two websites that we have installed here locally. One is our main site that we're going to pretend is our main site with a user in it, and then we also have the test account or test user or client site here to test out the single sign-on, to show you how to set up that client site as well. So we're going to assume that you have admin access, and here at Playground, wp.site, and remember we are just testing locally, so wp.site is going to be our main site that contains all our users, and wp.sso.site is going to be our client site. This is going to be where we want our users to use single sign-on. So the first thing we need to do is we need to download and install WP-OAuth server. So to do this, you're going to need admin access to WordPress. And if you go into plugins and add new, and then go up to your search and just type in WP-OAuth server, you're going to see it pop up. The image might change, but WP-OAuth server, OAuth Authentication is our plugin. And then you're going to just go ahead and click install now. We already have it installed here. So if you click install now, wait for it to install, and then hit activate. Once it's activated, you're going to see a OAuth server side menu here. We're just going to click on that, and you're going to see a screen similar to this. There is no clients installed, so what we need to do is we're going to create a client. This client is going to be directly specific for the single sign-on client site that we have set up. And you don't want to use one client for across the board for multiple different logins, because that poses an issue. If there is, let's just say, a breach on one of them, the credentials could be compromised for all of them. So OAuth 2 and WP server is designed to prevent that. So let's not do that. So we're just going to go ahead and create a client. This client is going to be, again, for the single sign-on client example that we're going to be covering. For the client name, I'm just going to hit my client site, right? And I'm not going to do anything else just yet, because I do need to know the redirect URI. And this is where we're going to have to hop over to the client site. So you're also going to have admin access to the client site, the site that you want to use single sign-on with. And we're going to hop into the dashboard area here too as well. We're going to need install, we're going to need to install a client plugin that we have created specifically to use with WP OAuth server. Now this plugin can be used for multiple other OAuth providers or OAuth servers, but this one is designed specifically for WP OAuth server. And again, to do that, we're going to go over and click Add New, and then we're going to search for Simple Single Sign-On. And I just let it autocomplete. Simple Single Sign-On, here you go. And it seems to be already installed, but again, hit Install Now, and then once it pops up, hit Activate. Once it has been installed, you're going to see under the settings menu OAuth 2 SSO. Let's go ahead and click on that. And it's going to break it down into steps. Again, this is very simple. And step 1 is the setup process. It's going to say install, and it's going to walk you through install and activate the OAuth WP OAuth server, free and paid version, enable authorization code, create a new client, and enter the redirect URL of this. This is important. We want to note this. So we're going to take this and we're going to copy it. If I can get my fingers right. And we're going to hop back over to our main site, and we are going to paste it right into our redirect URL. And everything else we're going to leave the same, and ensure authorization code is checked, because that is the type of grant, the grant type that we're going to be using. Also, if you're using the free version, that is the only version that is allowed with the free version. However, it is plenty enough to set up single sign-on site to site. Once you have that redirect URI copied and pasted into the client, just go ahead and hit Create Client. Once the client is created, it's going to spit you out a client ID and client secret. What we're going to do is we're going to copy the client ID, head back over to our client site, go down into configuration, and paste it right where it's asking for your client ID. And we're going to do the same thing for client secret. We're going to copy it. We're going to hop back over to our child site or the client site, and we're going to paste it. All right, so now it brings us to the OAuth server URL. It is, in our case, the URL of our main site, wp.site. It does need to be the full URL, so just keep that in mind. I copied and pasted this just by clicking here and grabbing the first part of the domain, not the entire domain. So once we have that set up, there's two options here. We're not going to really worry about too much of this just yet, but I will explain these. The redirect to the dashboard after signing in option is going to anybody that uses this single sign-on when they use single sign-on, it's going to redirect them back to their dashboard inside. This is good for sites that would like users just to log in and visit their dashboard for whatever reason. If you leave this unchecked, it's just going to go back to the home page of your client site once they've authenticated their flow. And restrict flow to login only. This option is pretty self-explanatory. This option will restrict to the login flow to users that have already established a single sign-on. Now, this is where it's important to understand how single sign-on works and OAuth works. Really, what happens during the first time a user uses single sign-on, they are also creating an account. They're authorizing the client site to connect to the server site and use their information. So since the client site doesn't know that user's login or anything, and that user's not created in the client database for at least the first time, the account is then created. The user's registered behind the scenes for the client site, and it only allows for the user to use single sign-on. Now, this option, if you click this, is going to stop people from signing on and only let users that already have done that. It's an option that was requested quite frequently, so we put it in here. However, in this example, we're not going to check it. And let's just hit Save Changes. And our OAuth 2 server is now set up for our client site, and it's also set up for our server site. Now, just for an example, we're also going to need to create a user, just because we're not going to authenticate admin and admin. So let's just say we want, this is a username, so let's say we want Johnny at, not Johnny, we want John. John.com is going to be his username. His email is going to be that as well. His first name is John. His last name is Doe. And we're going to use a secret squirrel password of admin. And he's just a subscriber. All right, so now that we have Johnny at john.com, or John registered into our site, let's go over into and play this out in another browser. So I'm going to open up Brave here. And the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want the user sessions from my admin interfering with this process. So Johnny is now registered on our server site, our main site here. He has an account here. He knows what his information is. And say we launched an example site. We launched a client site. And we want the users to be able to log into this site too as well using single sign-on. Well, Johnny don't have an account here, but he don't need to know that. We're just going to give him the ability. So on the client site, we send them over here to the login screen. Johnny can type in his name, an admin, and it's not going to work, right? Because he's not registered with the client site yet. So if we go ahead and click single sign-on, oops, yeah. Well, we forgot to do something over here. This is a good example of how things can go wrong. That error temporarily available is due to the single sign-on server not being activated. Look at that. Enabled. So we need to make sure the server is enabled. All right. So let's hop back over here to Brave and try this one more time. So Johnny goes to the client site and he wants to sign in. He does not have an account here, and as an administrator and a developer of these sites, you don't necessarily want duplicate information you manually to have to do that. So Johnny clicks single sign on, and it's going to take him to another login screen, and I know it's a little confusing right now, but if you look up the top, this login is actually the server site. And users are used to this. They're used to using Facebook login. They're used to using Google login. So they're used to this flow. So now when Johnny enters this information, He's actually logging into the main site, and at the same time, he is authorizing single sign-on use. So when he clicks login, you're going to notice that he was redirected back to the client site, and now Johnny is logged into that client site. So single sign-on, what it did is it took his information, and it came back, and it told the client site, hey, Johnny authorized the request. Here is his username, and his email, and his name, and let's create an account for him. Now, one thing to note is the password never transferred. So let's just say now that Johnny does have a site and Johnny wants to log in, he's still not going to be able to, because he only authorized the use of his name and his user information. The way WordPress is set up, they use salts and encryption, and unless two sites are using the same salt at the time of the creation of the password, the passwords will not link, and it's just not good practice. We never really did want to fully sync the passwords. We wanted to authorize the use of that information on this site. But now if we hit single sign-on, and Johnny's already logged into the main one, it's just going to go and log him in to the client site. So I know it's a little confusing, but that's why we make the videos. That's why we wanted to put this out there and show how you can connect two WordPress sites together using WP OAuth and simple single sign-on, and play by these bigger rules that these bigger companies are playing by. It's super simple, really, if you look at it as a whole, to connect these two sites using OAuth 2. It's super secure. It's super simple to set up. It's super fast, and it's very, very convenient for your users. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be creating a little bit more videos. That was our New Year's resolution, to get some more videos, more detailed videos about our product out there. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below. You know, maybe you just didn't understand something. Maybe I didn't explain something quite the way it needed to be explained. You can leave them down in the comments below if you have any questions. And again, be sure to like the video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, because there's more coming out. And if you have any questions, leave a comment. And I hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to be moving on to some new videos, so keep an eye out.